is to talk about the fundamentals of music theory. We're going to start using just the C major scale, and we're going to talk about the C major scale because it doesn't have any sharps or flats. It's very, it's all natural notes, which means we're just using C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C again is where you start over. So for somebody who doesn't know anything about music theory, what I'm talking about is that we have 7 notes in a scale, and that comes from the 12 notes we have available. So how do we get to those 7 notes? It's a formula. It's a simple formula. So the formula is based on steps, and a step is either you have a whole step or a half step, or you can have a step and a half. A whole step is 2 notes. Okay, so when I say a half step, I mean 1 note. A whole step is 2 notes. So when we talk about whole step, half step, whole step, half step, we should think of it as C to D is a whole step, E to F is a half step because there's no sharp or flat in between those 2 notes. Now, if we were to look at a piano, we would see very clearly how this is laid out because the black keys represents the sharps and flats. Now, if you were to find the C note on a piano and start at that C and end at the same note an octave higher, you're going to have a C major scale. Now you can visually see exactly what it is I'm talking about. And that's exactly what you'll get when you hear this. That's exactly what you'll hear when you play those notes on the piano. So what matters most for me to explain to you is that I don't think it's the most important thing to start out with learning all the notes of each scale, because you're just going to have all these things in your head, and it's easier to look at the pattern of what it is you're playing. So you see whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step. That is how we create scales. Now, it doesn't matter what the root note is. In this case, it's C. It could be G, could be D, could be A, could be anything. As long as we adhere to those rules, we're going to have a G major scale, a D major scale, an A major scale, and you can play all the scales now because you know one simple rule, and that's the whole step, half step, whole step, half step. Okay? That right there is one of the most powerful foundational things you can learn. And the more we get into this, the more you'll understand what I'm talking about. Because you want to learn about minor scales, well, it starts there, the same spot. We just start from a different position. It uses the same rules. So we're going to focus on the major scale today. So the way I see it is you start with the note, all of the notes, or the note. You go to the scale, okay? And then you take the scale and create chords. And once you have chords, you can create a song. And today that's the goal, is to show you how that comes together. So to create a chord, you have the root, third, and fifth of the chord, which are the 3 notes that comprise the chord. Where do they come from? Well, 1 is that first note we talked about. In this case, it's going to be C. So this is 1. 2 is going to be the D, but we don't need that note, but we need to know where it is. The third note is going to be E. So E is going to sit on top of that C note, and you play them together, you get what's called a major third. That's that sound you hear, and that represents the intervals between the 2 notes. The major third means that interval is going to be 2 full steps. And then we take our third here, the major third, and we're going to play the 4th. Okay, we don't need that note, but we need to know where it is. And we have the 5th, and that's the last note of the chord. So we have the 1, 3, and 5 of the chord. And when I play the 3rd and the 5th together, we actually get a minor third sound. But when we play all 3 notes together, we get this beautiful C chord. And so as you can see, you have a minor third on top and a major third on the bottom. I said that backwards, but so this is the major third, you got a minor third. Play it all together, get the whole chord. And so a major chord and a minor chord are made up of one minor third and one major third. They can be backwards as well. And the example of that will be in the next chord we look at, which is just going to be the second chord is just going to be a minor chord, okay? So we have the 1, 3, 5 that creates the C major chord. Now, how do you create the next chord, right? That's probably what you're thinking. So we're going to move up to the D, which is the 2 of the scale, okay? Now we use the 1, 3, and 5. Now this time we're going to use the 2, 4, and 6. So 2, 3, 4. So we got 2 and 4. So this is a D and this is an F. Okay, we play those together, we get that minor third sound. And then we got 5, which we don't need, but we need the 6, which here is an A. So you got D, F, and A. Okay, play those 3 together, you get a D minor chord. Hauntingly beautiful, right? And for the sake of being thorough, we're gonna do a few more. So we got the next note here is E. So we started on C, D, and now we're on E. That's the third chord of the scale, okay? So now we're gonna work on the third chord of the scale. It's gonna be an E minor. So we went over our C major chord, okay? Our D minor chord, and next we're gonna learn the next chord and how it works. So as we're going through this, you got C, D, E, F, G, A, and B, okay? So like I said, E is a 3, 4, we're gonna skip the 4 though, we're gonna grab that. G is a 5, so we got E, G, and then we're gonna need the B, so that's 6 and then 7. So 3, 5, 7. We play those 3 notes together. We have an E minor chord now. So now we've got C major, D minor, E minor, and so on and so forth. Now, using this method, you can figure out the rest of the chords on your own, because what will happen is you just go to the 4th chord, okay? And the 4th is going to start on the F. We're going to skip the 5th. We're going to go to the 6th. So 4, 6. And obviously we can't go to 8 because it doesn't exist. So we start over on 1, which is just going to be a C. So we got 4, 6, 1. And that's an F major chord. So now we have C, D minor, E minor, F major. Okay? Now, as we go through these, you have 7 chords, okay? And for the sake of being thorough and finishing these, but being quick on time, I want to give you the rest so that you understand where we're going. So that was the F, and the next note is going to be G. So G is the 5th, 5, skip the 6, 7, so 5, 7, 5, 7, and then it's going to be, what is it? Not the 1, it's going to be 2. So 5, 7, 2, okay? And now we have a G chord, okay? Next one is going to be 6, 1, 3, 6, 1, 3. It's A minor. Okay. Now we have a weird one. Okay. This is where things get really fun because this chord is a little bit different. So we start on the 7. Okay. 7. Skip the root. Okay. Because we don't need it. The 1. Need the 2. 7, 2. And then we actually are going to skip the E here, which is the 3rd, and grab the 4th. And so we have 7, 2, 4. Right? So to play that chord, it sounds like this. And yes, that is correct. That is a chord that is in the diatonic scale that we use every day to make music in the modern world. A lot of times people will play a D and kind of manipulate it. Not a D. They'll play a variation of the chord, which is for a later time. The core is understanding how the teach a man the fish method is to teach you how to create the music from the roots, from the nothing, from absolutely no idea of what you're doing, so that you can take the simple stuff and throw it at a wall and start creating music. It's like you start with, figuring out that you have a major chord, minor chord, major chord. As you can see, whole, half, whole, half, leads to major, minor, major, minor, diminished. That's that last chord we used. And that's that beautiful sound. So to play the entire set of chords, you have C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B half diminished, back to C. And it resolves and it sounds beautiful. So I'm trying to make this as simple as I can so that I can grow upon this idea so that you can understand easier, because I know a lot of people, they want to draw, like notes on a whiteboard, but I want you to understand the basic concepts of where it is that you can take. Basically, I want you to be able to do your own math. It's like you shouldn't have to be searching for where to go. You should know where to go based on the simple patterns of music. There's only 7 notes in your scale. So if you take the time to understand how those 7 notes interact with each other, where they are in your instrument, how to play the chords, obviously taking the time to develop the technique to learn how to play your instrument really well, that's a different story. You have to do a lot of work. It takes a lot of investment and time. But when it comes to the fundamentals, the very basic fundamentals of music theory, if you start here and you work your way up to understanding those chords, it's very simple to add on to it, okay? So from there, we've got, you have the major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now, if you want to change the way that it feels, okay? So if you want to write a song in this, you can take the 1 or any of the notes. As long as you start on the 1, it'll sound like it's in this scale. So we got C, and then let's take a popular chord progression is 1. Let's just say 1, 6, 5, 4. Okay. Now what that means is I'm using the first chord. Okay. And then using that pattern, I know where the notes are on the fretboard. So I'm going to take the C, which is the 1. We're going to skip that 7. We're going to go down to the 6. So 1, 6, 5, 4. So so now that is enough to create an entire song. You can use any of the chords that you figured out on your own. You built them. You literally created them yourself with me just now. So you can take any scale, whatever fits your voice, however you creatively decide to use this information. You can use it to create anything you want. And that's the point. You shouldn't be bottlenecked by learning how to play guitar and someone says, you'll have to learn G, D, A, E. Yes, absolutely. You have to learn all of the caged chords, C, A, G, E, D, which is, supremely important to playing the instrument. But if you know how everything is comprised, everything is put together from a certain point, let's say starting from scratch like I did with just using the C note, and what we're talking about isn't necessarily how to play the guitar, it's how to apply music theory for a beginner on the instrument. So when we're going through these things, feel free to experiment. That's the greatest part about music, is letting yourself experiment. Don't ever let anyone tell you that there's something you're doing wrong if you're just sitting and practicing. Because you can sit here like this all you want. I mean, what it's teaching you if you were to do something like that is how to make some weird noises. Sound effects are a world too, So It doesn't matter. There are no limitations as long as you can really break down those fundamentals. And I hope to make a lot more videos on this because it's one of my favorite topics. And if you guys have questions, please ask them in the comments so that I can have more content to create for you guys. I hope that you liked this video, and if you did, please like it and subscribe, and I'll be trying to put more content out as I go on. So with that being said, see ya.